Every major turning point in my career, every landmark in my career has come from meeting somebody new. That shouldn't be that big of a surprise. So if I want to find a way to grow more and make more connections and do more meaningful projects and make more emotional art, then step one is just meeting new people. Welcome to Thanks for Thinking, the music business podcast focusing on self-reflection and proactivity for thoughtful music production professionals. If you don't know me, I'm Carl Bonner. I'm a mix engineer, educator, and studio branding super nerd. I'm trying a bit of a new format today because I really enjoyed the way that this podcast used to be. I did enjoy the fact that it had a sense of meditation to it. However, it took a lot of preparation, even though the episodes only had maybe 5 to 7 minutes of actual talking. It was all pre-scripted. It was all written out, and it took me hours to create just a few minutes of really impactful, meaningful content. And that's great. However, I have 2 kids now, and it's a lot harder to keep up with that. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is to just make this a little more off the cuff. And that's a little tricky for me because I'm not used to that. I'm used to speaking in front of groups and teaching classes. I'm used to talking in one-on-one conversations and being able to interact that way. And I'm also used to reading off a teleprompter. But when I'm doing this sort of video, I don't have anybody to look at. And it's a little bit weird, just being very transparent about that. But I think this is going to help to make things a little bit more natural feeling and realistically more sustainable, because I know that I have a lot of ideas and experiences and perspectives that I want to share with you. And it's just not an efficient way to do it if I were to keep up with the old format. So I do really want to keep the content of this podcast similar in the sense that I want it to be about finding ways that you can ask yourself the deeper questions to help you to find more fulfillment and direction with your job, whether you're a mixing engineer, a producer, a session musician. But the way that I want to present it is going to be a little bit different. And it's probably going to be a little awkward at first because I'm not used to looking at the back of a camera. I'm just staring at the lens right there. And it's difficult to not, look up off to the side while I'm thinking because I'm just used to doing that. So this will be a good training ground for me as well. But enough about the shift in the format. I want to talk about goals today. And I know that every podcast on earth is probably doing an episode about goal setting right now because it is the beginning of January. But I want to talk about the goals that I set that did not pan out and talk about the reasons why they did not pan out. And I can tell you this, most of them, user error. It was just me not actually setting myself up to achieve the goals. I just set them up as things to cross my fingers and hope to happen. I want to start with the elephant in the room, money. I think whether we like to admit it or not, we all set some sort of financial goal for the new year. In the past few years, up until 2023, whenever I set a financial goal, I actually got pretty close to meeting it. But last year was a bit of a letdown for me, I'll be honest. I still did totally fine. And also I had a baby. Well, I didn't have a baby. My wife had a baby. But we collectively made a new human person back in June. So the first 5 months of 2023, I was killing it. I knew that I was going to need to slow down when the baby came. And I ended up having to slow down a lot more than I initially intended. That wasn't because I didn't know that a baby was going to be a time-consuming responsibility, because we have another child already. But what I did not plan for was how much of a monkey wrench the older sister was going to be, and how much exponentially more difficult it was to get into a flow with both kids. And I will say that when I set goals before, I did generally have a pretty good plan for how I was going to do it. I didn't just say, I'm going to make X amount of money this year, but I'm just going to keep doing things like I've been doing it and hope that it works out, because that's not how reaching bigger goals works, right? We have to decide what are the steps we need to take, in what order, at what pace, to be able to actually achieve those goals, so we don't end up just treading water, doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually move the needle for us. This year, what I wanted to do instead was to set some goals that were not focused on making a certain amount of money, but things that I know that if I put the work in and I actually follow through with these input goals, like these goals that are based on what I do and what I can control, and things that are also manageable, right? Not just something that is in my control, but something that I can confidently say that I will have the time and mental energy to do. And with two young kids, that's not always a lot of time and energy. So the inevitable outcome of me following through with my goal consistently, with my plan consistently, my strategy consistently, the outcome of that, I feel very confident will be more money anyway. So I think it's just starting from the focus on what I can do, not what I hope will be achieved. There's not as much luck involved. There's not as much hoping involved. It's all about what I put into it, focusing on what I can do today, not what I hope to have achieved by December 31st of 2024. So some of the factors that enabled last year to still work. Number one, I raised my rates quite a bit for my mixing projects and also for the coaching that I do. And number two, I really focused on the kinds of projects that I wanted to reach out to and the things I wanted to say yes to. Counterintuitively, by continuing to double down on only taking on projects that I'm really excited about rather than going after the ones that have the most money, it kept me energized to keep going. I could have very easily fallen into the trap of taking on every project that comes my way because I needed the money. And I'll be honest, there were a few projects that I had to do that. But thankfully, I could probably count those on one hand. Whereas the other ones, even if the money wasn't my full rate, it gave me the energy to be able to keep going. And that was super important to me, especially when the baby came. And really for this entire second half of 2023, I was working only 2 or 3 days a week. Not 2 or 3 days like a lot of engineers do, the classic 12-hour days or 14-hour days. I mean, I was working 3, 7 or 8-hour days a week and still being the primary breadwinner for the family and raising the kids and everything. So thankfully, I was able to still make it all work, even though I was essentially working 20 to 24 hours a week. So the way that that's affecting my goals for this coming year is that I'm actually not setting any financial goals, any like specific number goals. The goal that I set for myself is to start conversations with more than 1,000 new people this year. That sounds like a lot of people, and it is a lot of people. But when you do the math, it's a little less than 3 people per day. When I look back at the past couple of years, like I know that sending 3 messages a day for me is nothing. Like that's not a big commitment. And I know for anybody watching this, if you haven't done a lot of outreach before, 3 a day might sound like a lot. But I promise if you started to do this as well, the first one will take a while. You'll probably rewrite the message 5 times. But then the second one will be a little less stressful and you'll probably rewrite it twice. Third one, you'll probably be a little stressed out, but you might be able to get the message right the first time. Day 2, start where you left off. And by day 3, day 4, day 5, day 190, the more you do that, the more practice you get at finding something thoughtful and meaningful to say to somebody, the better you get at it. It's not rocket science. It's just like any other skill. So setting something up manageable, like doing 3 messages a day, for me, I know that I can handle that. And I know that if I start 1,000 conversations, I'm probably going to meet some really incredible people. I'm not doing it for the purpose of getting new clients. I'm not doing it for the purpose of finding new students. I'm not going into it for the purpose of finding 1,000 people that can do something for me, right? That's not the goal. The goal is to just find more of my people. My tribe. There are so many interesting people in this industry that inevitably I'm going to make some great connections and find some really cool people that hopefully think that I'm cool too. I can't imagine a world where I start 1,000 conversations in a year and nothing positive comes out of it. Right? I can't imagine that being a thing. I can't imagine it not leading to new collaborations, new teams, new friends, new projects, new students, whatever that is. I'm not trying to set out to find X amount of new students or X amount of new clients. I just want to start conversations with people and see where that goes because I know that every major turning point in my career, every landmark in my career has come from meeting somebody new. That shouldn't be that big of a surprise. So if I want to find a way to grow more and make more connections and do more meaningful projects and make more emotional art, then step 1 is just meeting new people. So, what I'd like you to do today, though, would be to look at the goals that you set and ask yourself if they are finish line goals, like outcomes that you hope to happen, or are they things that you can start doing today and you have a clear plan of what you can do today to be able to eventually get to that finish line? Are you aiming for the finish line or are you looking at the path? Taking some time to really think about that is going to be humongously helpful for you and your ability to actually achieve those outcomes this year. So thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this or listen to this. And let me know what you think about this format. I'm going to keep trying it, but if there are ways that I can make it better, I'm going to always try to make it better. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.